There's a quiet truth about neuropathy that rarely gets explained clearly. Outcomes are not random. They are constrained. Not by willpower, not by motivation, not even primarily by diagnosis. They are constrained by a small number of governing factors that determine how much recovery is biologically possible. Most people are never taught to think this way. They're told neuropathy is about nerves, so care becomes about the nerves. But nerves do not exist in isolation. They live inside of an environment, and that environment is what sets the ceiling. No matter how advanced the therapy, no matter how consistent the visits, no matter how strong your intent is, if the constraint remains, the outcomes will plateau. This is why two people can follow similar care paths and end up in very different places. The difference is not the effort they put in, it is the constraint exposure. Now, there are 5 primary constraints that govern neuropathy outcomes. They act quietly, they stack on top of each other, and they determine what recovery is biologically possible. The first constraint is blood flow. Nerves are metabolically demanding tissue. They require consistent oxygen and nutrient delivery, not intermittently, continuously. Even mild vascular compromise can change nerve behavior. Capillary density matters, microcirculation matters, and endothelial health all matter. You can reduce pain perception, but if blood flow remains insufficient, repair remains limited. Most people are told their circulation is fine because large vessels are open. But nerves live at the micro level. When microcirculation is compromised, symptoms persist even when the major arteries look normal. The second constraint is metabolic stability. Nerves are exquisitely sensitive to metabolic volatility. Glucose spikes, insulin resistance, mitochondrial insufficiency. None of these need to reach diagnostic thresholds to matter. Small, repeated instability changes how nerves generate energy. It slows repair, it increases vulnerability. This is why people without diabetes still develop neuropathy, and why managing numbers without addressing variability often falls short. Stable input matters more than isolated readings. The third constraint is inflammatory load. Inflammation is not inherently bad, it's a repair signal. But chronic, unresolved inflammation changes tissue behavior. It alters signaling, it increases oxidative stress, and interferes with regeneration. Inflammatory load is cumulative. Gut health, sleep quality, stress exposure, past injuries, and dietary patterns. Each one contributes a small amount. Together, they shape the inflammatory environment that the nerves live in. If that environment stays hostile, nerves shift from repair mode to survival mode. And survival mode does not rebuild. The fourth constraint is mechanical load. Nerves do not just transmit signals. They move, they glide, they tolerate stress and compression. So chronic mechanical stress changes nerve function over time. Posture, gait, repetitive strain, spinal loading, and joint restrictions. None of these need to cause acute injury to matter. Low-level, constant mechanical stress alters blood flow. It alters signal conduction and sensitivity. This is why local care sometimes helps briefly and then it will plateau. The broader mechanical environment remains unchanged. The fifth constraint is signal efficiency. This is the least discussed and most often misunderstood. Nerve health is not just about structure, it is about communication. Central processing, peripheral signaling, and feedback loops. When signal quality degrades, the nervous system becomes noisy. Pain amplification tends to increase, balance degrades, and protective reflexes misfire. This is not psychological, it's neurological. It's a difference between a clear signal and a distorted one, even when the nerve itself is still intact. If signal efficiency is not addressed, symptoms can persist even when tissue health improves. These 5 constraints do not operate independently. They interact. Poor blood flow worsens metabolic stress. Metabolic instability fuels inflammation. Inflammation increases mechanical sensitivity, and mechanical stress degrades signaling. This is why treating just one piece often helps temporarily, but really changes long-term outcomes. This is where most people get discouraged. They're doing something, but not enough of the right things in the right domains. So, over time, the improvement stalls. Plateau doesn't always mean failure. It means a constraint has not yet been addressed. This is the shift most people never experience. From asking, why is this happening, to asking, what is still limiting repair? That question changes everything. Because constraints, it can be modified. Not all of them, not completely, and not instantly, but far more often than most people are told. This is why neuropathy outcomes should be evaluated across all systems, not visits, not weeks, and not single interventions. When constraints are progressively reduced, the ceiling rises. Symptoms stabilize, then soften, then in many cases they improve. Not because the diagnosis changed, but the governing factors changed. This is also why neuropathy care should never be rushed. Biology adapts on its own timeline. Remove pressure, support the inputs, and then you allow space for repair. The nervous system responds, not with miracles, with progress. Neuropathy outcomes are governed by constraints, and when those constraints are understood, care becomes clear. It does not become easier, it becomes more honest and far more effective. This is not about promises, it's about principle. Reduce the constraints, and the nervous system does what it always has done. It adapts. That's where realistic, lasting change actually begins.